This is the Radical Rant Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Radical Rant Podcast for September 11th, 2019, not August like I said last week because I'm a consummate professional. Adam aka CSRadical here with you guys, and we're going to have a lot more fun talking about gaming this week than we did last week, that's for damn sure. We're going to cover a lot of fun stuff this time. We're going to talk about Cyberpunk potentially having multiplayer. We are going to go through the entirety of Nintendo Direct, and we are also going to talk about very easy modes in games, because Death Stranding is going to be taking one into consideration and putting that in their game when that comes out. And I never really got a chance to really go into depth about the easy mode conversation that came back during the Sekiro era, so I wanted to go through that. But first, I didn't even plan on saying anything about this because it wasn't on my mind literally 5 minutes before I hit the record button. But as I sat down here at my desk, it is the 10th of September at this point. It's almost 9 p.m. here. I'm recording this because I know I'm probably not going to have a lot of time tomorrow to do it, so I'm getting ahead of that game today. Obviously, tomorrow is September 11th, and that is a very significant day if you are an American. I am Canadian, but thus I was still very much affected because, you know, it's the neighbors down south. And I totally didn't think about this podcast being on September 11th until I was about to start recording, and then I looked at my calendar to see what the date would be tomorrow, because I'm the most amazing at knowing what day of the week it is. At least I know it's Tuesday. I just can never tell you the number half the time. And that's when I realized that, oh shit, tomorrow's September 11th. And I kind of sat on it for a moment. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I don't know if I've ever actually talked about 9/11. And I don't think I ever planned on it, and it just happens to fall on a day where, you know, I felt like some sort of a compelling desire to at least say something about it. So I'm not going to talk about the tragedy of it and all that. I think we've heard that a million times, and you know. I just want to tell you what it was like for me when being, you know, a 14-year-old kid, you know, seeing that. So I moved to a new place that month before. And it was a really tough month. Actually, sorry, I don't think it was August that we moved. I think it was in the summer. That much I remember. It was a tough first little while getting used to the new place. Right on my brother's birthday, which is in August. That's why I was thinking August in the first place. Our grandfather passed away. So that was already a tough start to moving out. It was great for me in terms of social ability because like I said in an earlier podcast, like my entire childhood growing up sucked. Because I was bullied and harassed a lot. I still got bullied after I moved and went to a different school, but it wasn't nearly as fucking over the top and just extreme that it was when I was still in elementary school in a different place. And obviously, being so new into the school year, you know, I haven't had the chance to really meet a lot of people. I did eventually, I think around that same time, I at least found one classmate who literally lived like a 2-minute walk from my place, so that was fantastic. But I remember that day very vividly still, because I remember being out at recess, and all of a sudden, like, we were being shooed back inside, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm old enough to know I'm 14. I'm like, okay, I know that this isn't normally when recess ends, so what's going on here? And nothing was told to us. School ended that day, which in retrospect is kind of strange because, I mean, yeah, this happened in New York, but this is a different country. And I mean, if anybody's going to be like, this is the thing that I saw with a lot. I heard the story corroborated a lot of times. Like people said, oh yeah, my school cleaned out too. And it's the kind of thing that I'm like, why are we doing it? Like in retrospect, I'm actually kind of curious why a lot of places like far away from the area did it. I mean, I guess it's just a thing of, you know, they can't focus, I guess. That's the only thing I can figure is that the adults just couldn't focus with what was going on. To which, I mean, I've seen, like, I remember the Toronto van attack, you know, not too long ago, and you know, I didn't see a lot going on there, but it's two different things, so But it's one of those things. Even as a kid, I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, why are we getting let out of school and not being told why? But it's not. I never usually walked home, but I knew how to get home, so it was fine. I just walked home, and I sat down, and I remember turning on the TV, and all I saw was the building on fire. And this is before the second crash. So people were just trying to figure what happened, and then we finally got like real video of a plane crashing in. So we're thinking, oh shit, what a terrible accident. And then all of a sudden the second plane strikes. And I know that a lot of kids, don't exactly really know what's going on, especially at that young an age, but man, when I saw that second tower hit, or when that second plane hit, I'm like, oh shit, this is not good. And that is one of those things that you will never forget seeing. I've suppressed the day. That's the best I've been able to do. But the second anything gets mentioned about it, every vision comes right back. It's. I still remember exactly the camera angle, or the camera angles, I should say, of different shots that were done of the planes. The very far away long shot, the one that was kind of underneath the building, and not to mention documentaries that I remember being so horrified by seeing people just leaping to their deaths because it was better than just dying in the fire. And it's one of those things that, it's going to be impossible to forget, in the same vein that, there are a lot of people even younger or even older than I am that will remember, even wars, let alone, just a really bad terrorist attack like 9/11 was. But I just felt like saying something about it just because it was on my brain the second that I noticed what the day was. And we're 18 years since. We're going to be 2 years away from 20 years of it, and there are still families that will never be able to move on from that, not to mention people that never even had the chance to either have families or really become one, because so many people lost their lives in that. And it's one of those things that, like, I hate to bring it as a downer, but like, fuck. It's in a time especially where we are so devoid of major wars since really what, Cold War, Vietnam War, like stuff of that. Like, fuck, like these are one of those things that just gets pushed to the top in a lot of people's minds as such terrible things, because we're so lucky to not have crazy shit like this happening all the time here now, like it used to 50, 100 years ago, So I just thought I'd talk about that for a second, because I felt it was a good time to do so, and that I never really had talked about it before. So anyways, moving on to fun stuff here in gaming. So the first thing that came to mind is I saw that Cyberpunk 2077 will plan to have multiplayer, and people had their guard up for a moment, but it quickly got diffused when they said, hey, this is going to be after the launch of the game, and this is going to be after we release all our single-player DLCs. So this is like an afterthought. So that makes me happy, at least taking solace in the idea that their focus is on the core game now. They're not going to waste the resources and waste time on stuff that might not be as important. And in a game like Cyberpunk, considering it also comes from a series like The Witcher that has never had multiplayer, I would have been okay if the game never had multiplayer either, and I just assumed it wasn't going to. But if they decide to find a way to make it work, I mean, I'm all in. I'm going to keep that game as long as I have it. Unless this game is the biggest piece of shit somehow, and I don't believe it will be, that game is going to stay on my shelf. So if it ever has some really cool multiplayer elements to it, I will be in there. And I'm kind of curious on where Cyberpunk would take a multiplayer. I'd have to imagine it's like some virtual reality thing. Like, I can't imagine them just putting in like some random team deathmatch mode with, the Cyberpunk aesthetic. I figure it has to be probably some weird multiplayer thing. It'd also be really cool if they just didn't make it like gunplay and everything else. Like, they would do something a little more cool with it, like a sport or something like that, rather than it just being... Because that's the thing, right? Like, you look at a game like Cyberpunk, and people are just going to assume it's a first-person shooter, so naturally you have to have multiplayer to it. I would love it if CE Project Red decided to take that idea and flip it on its head and do something completely different from what people expect it to be. And I would give them super props for that, because I think everybody's just assuming that you're going to get, every normal first-person shooter multiplayer that we've ever seen in a video game, just with the Cyberpunk quality to it. But, if they want to do that either way, that's cool. I mean, I'm sure it'll go just fine, but like I said, they're doing it after the launch in the single-player DLC, so that they're going to go through the core of their game with a fine what's the word I'm looking for? They're just going to go through it really in depth and make sure that it's high quality when it comes out, and the multiplayer is secondary, and if it's good when it comes out, then it'll be good. Otherwise, it is what it is, right? Who cares? This game is not meant to be a multiplayer crazy awesome game. This is meant to be a single player fucking epic. So I don't care what really happens with the multiplayer on it, but if it happens to be good, I'll fucking play it. Pretty straightforward there. Next, I want to talk about easy modes in general, but this all came because Death Stranding, the developers, I don't know if it was Kojima directly, but it was mentioned that Death Stranding will have a very easy mode for if you just want to run through the story, which is pretty common. Most games have that now. And it brings up an issue that I don't remember if I actually spent a lot of time talking about. I think I probably did. But this is kind of one of those cases where I can go through it again, and if I have talked about it, then it is what it is. You can just... I always timestamp this stuff now, so you can just skip to the next part when I talk about Nintendo Direct, but... excuse me, coughing there. I've always been a guy who doesn't like to play the hardest difficulties. I can remember only a couple of games ever actually trying to tackle the hardest difficulties, and that was back in the day when I first started watching Achievement Hunter, and I just got the sense of kind of copying it and just being like, oh yeah, fine, I'll try to complete this game. So I used to do that with Call of Duty a lot. I tried to complete the campaigns on the hardest difficulties. I tried to do the Halo games on those difficulties. But it didn't take very long for me to get a sense that I wasn't necessarily looking to have the biggest challenge possible whenever I was playing games. And extending it all the way to today, I don't really want to be overly challenged playing a game anymore. Now, this is not to say that I don't enjoy games that challenge me. And this is not saying that I'm lazy and don't want to have to try a little bit, but the way that I look at a lot of easy modes now with games, for example, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and I'm playing it on easy. And the reason I'm doing that is, quite frankly, as the game says, when you pick the option, is for people who want to enjoy the story. I don't have the same amount of playing time that I used to anymore. So in order to be able to finish these games, I need to be able to find a way to get them done as quickly as I can. Because games that used to take me a couple of weeks when I wasn't unemployed, but when I didn't have 500 other things I was trying to do. When I was playing Mass Effect 2, for example. When that game came out, I played it for 13 hours the first day I had it, and I finished that game, I want to say, in 2 to 3 weeks. And almost no game takes me that long to finish anymore. It takes me so much longer now. Even Yakuza 3, the remaster that I finished in 27 hours, it still took me probably 2 weeks to do, if not more. I'm trying to think how long it was. I think it was 2 weeks. And that's because I can only plug in about 2, 3, 4 hours at most on most days. So it became a little bit more difficult to justify those 100 and 200 hour epics that I used to be so into, with Mass Effect. Because with Mass Effect 2, I had a job, but I wasn't working 40 hours a week most of the time. A lot of those days I was doing... I would do an 8-hour shift here and there, and I would also do 4 to 8. So I had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I also didn't have friends is not the right thing to say. What happened is that a lot of my friends that lived right around the corner from me all moved around the same time. Once we all started going to college, everything kind of changed. Everybody moved within an hour's drive of everywhere. And that kind of broke a few relationships. Well, not broke a few relationships. It's just it's harder to connect when you're further away like that. And after college, I didn't end up getting a job, and that was a frustration in itself. But I still had my part-time job that I was doing. That changed to full-time. Some days I was still doing the 4 to 8s, but it was basically like any time that I had off, I would play. Like, it was all I could do because I didn't. At that time, I don't know if Crunchyroll was around, and if it was, it probably wasn't a very good service at that point. It was still in its early stages. But I wasn't watching anime at that point. I was not even thinking about the idea of rec league sports because I wasn't gaining weight at that point. That's the reason why I started playing sports, is because I gained weight as soon as I moved out, because I stopped, eating good food. And even to this day, now that I'm getting older, it doesn't make a difference now. But all those things came into play, and not to mention that now at 31 and where I am today, I have so many more friends local again that I'm all over the place now. So my playing time went from, let's say, 50 hours every week available to me to maybe 10, 15, 20, depending on the week. So when it comes to picking difficulty modes, I try to just lean easy on most of them anyway, because I know that if it's a game that's going to be excruciatingly hard, I'm never going to finish it. Because I don't have the time anymore that I used to, so it's very easy for me to get impatient and frustrated because, say on a day like today, like I don't work tomorrow, luckily for me, but on a day that I work, I get home at about 8:30 and I usually go to bed at 11:30. So at most I have, if I literally take the least amount of time possible in breaking and just get home, play games, and then go to bed at my normal time, I've got 3 hours. And if I'm spending 3 hours playing a game that's just kicking my ass and frustrating me, I'm going to wake up the next morning and be like, man, I wasted my whole fucking night last night. Like, what was I doing? Instead now, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey on easy mode, or I was playing Horizon on... Actually, Horizon is a fucking great example. Horizon was a game that I tried twice before I actually finished the game the third time, going on the story mode. The first 2 times, I still love the game. But the bullet sponginess of the enemies, the constant threat of this, as soon as I was seen by one of the big monsters, I'm fucked. And my frustration with the way that they were trying to get me to take them down, it was a little too much for me when I was trying to enjoy the story more than I was trying to enjoy the gameplay. And I still love the game as a whole. But as soon as I played for the third time and finally just said, screw it, I'm going on story mode, let's see what happens. And granted, every enemy is really easy to kill. Like, there are bosses that I kill in 2 hits. Like, it is what it is. But being able to just run through the world, just kick the shit out of everything, explore everything, and enjoy the story, and one of the best main characters I've seen in a long time in a video game, in Aloy. That got a better result out of me on a story mode that really is not difficult at all. Like, you have to be like inept at playing video games to have any trouble with that game now, because it's really easy. For anybody who is consistent at playing video games, you will have no trouble playing that game on story mode. And I enjoyed the hell out of it because I was able to enjoy the parts of the game that I was more focused on. I would never buy a game like, say, Dark Souls or Sekiro and expect there to be an easy mode as well, because that game is not meant to be a story-driven, like, epic, like, RPG sort of deal. That game is meant to be a challenging, you need to learn as you go and understand the rules of this game sort of experience. So I remember when all those articles came out about Sekiro, and my first thought was like, guys, this game isn't meant to be an easy mode game. Like, this is meant to be a game that challenges you. I'm not stupid. Like, I'm smart enough to understand that this kind of game is not meant for the experience that I am looking for. And the idea that people were trying to tell people that that game needed an easy mode, that was the wrong choice. Now, in a game like, say, Death Stranding, where they want to have a very easy mode, they can do whatever the hell they want, because the way that the game looks, it seems like it's going to be another one of those open world epics, like an Assassin's Creed, like a Horizon, like that. That makes sense to have a very easy mode, because there is a very big story going on. There's a lot of characters that you're going to deal with. There's an epicness to it that goes beyond just fighting these things that could kill you at any moment. The whole conversation that ensued from the Sekiro stuff was embarrassing to watch, because both sides eventually just became spoiled children. You had, of course, the usually journalist side who, automatically just go against gamers whenever they talk about anything, saying that, every game should have an easy mode because every game should be accessible to people, to which I say, no, it shouldn't. Because if that was the case, why aren't JRPG players playing Madden? Why aren't Madden players playing Persona? Some do, but the core Madden fan doesn't give a fuck about what Persona 5's doing. That is what it is, and it's vice versa. The other side with the people that were... If everybody had the same vision that I thought when this first issue came up, and just being like, no, they can do whatever the hell they want, and that's the end of it, everything would have been fine. But you know what the internet is, you know what Reddit's like, you know what Twitter's like. People had to go and say, well, fuck you, you little spoiled child, you snowflake. Like, why do you got to deal with... Like, don't be a fucking bitch, get good at the game. It's like, again, the get good stuff. Holy fuck. I could do a whole podcast on just that line of thinking, but to sum it up, the get good stuff is literally just a troll, as far as I'm concerned. It's just meant to piss people off. The idea, though, of it be like taking the word seriously. To tell anybody to get good at a game, the only way that applies is if they bitch about, oh, this game, I hate that people are so... Or like if it's a competitive game, I should say. And people are complaining that, oh man, I hate the fact that, these people are so much better than me, and because they're leveled up, they get all the access to this cool shit. That's when you say, oh, well, keep playing the game and get better at it, and yeah, you'll be able to get there. But in the sense of anything else, like, dude, like, get good is just, you're being an asshole. That's all it is. And I've never understood that mentality. But all in all, like, when the Sekiro story, when that dust settled, like, nobody came out good for it, because everybody just started bitching, and it wasn't all that fun to read. But all in all, like, easy modes to me is a necessity, and it's a necessity for the games that I choose to play, because the games that I choose to play tend to have that. Now, if I buy a game and I find out there's no easy mode, well, that's what I get for not researching, or that's what I get for buying that specific game. And if I really want to play through that game, I'll go for it. Like, there may come a time that I actually say, you know what, fuck it, let me give Sekiro a shot. I know Code Vein's coming out, and that game kind of piques my curiosity a little bit, so maybe I'll try that. But if the game says there's no easy mode, then I will have to be under the understanding that this is the kind of game that's meant to challenge you. And if that's the intent, then there's no reason for me to demand an easy mode, because that's not what the game is. The game is not meant to be easy. It's meant to challenge you. But for any other game, like a Horizon, like an Assassin's Creed, like any JRPG, like a Persona, all of those games should have easy modes, because those games carry things like story, character arcs, all these things that people may just be in it for that. And as a guy who also played through Persona 5, really struggled with the core difficulty, mostly because I wanted to finish each dungeon in one day, because I wanted to complete all the social links and stuff. But I had to quit playing that game on normal after about 5-6 hours, and then redo the whole thing again and do it on the easy difficulty where I could breeze through it better. And the reason was not because I was being a bitch, or because I wasn't good enough to do it, or I was just, getting mad that, I was being challenged as much. No, it was just I wanted to finish the story, and I wanted to do it without getting frustrated all the time, and I wanted to be able to actually finish it because of my time consumption. And in the end, making that choice for the last couple of years that I've been doing it has been a godsend to me, because now I finished a lot of games that normally I wouldn't have had I played it on the normal difficulties. And as I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey right now on that easy difficulty, I still get challenged a little bit. I mean, it's not like it's literally poke a guy and he dies. Like, you still have to do a little bit of work. And I enjoy still being able to, sneak around and pick people off with arrows and assassinate them from high places, and still have one-on-one fights where I do have to at least pay a little bit of attention to what's going on, but I'm not getting killed really fast like you would on, say, a harder difficulty. I'm not saying that I couldn't, but I'm saying that at this juncture, because of the time I have available to me, I'd rather not. Now, would that change if I, say, had a shit ton of money and didn't have to go to work every, 4 or 5 days a week? Then maybe it would change. Maybe it still wouldn't. It just all depends on how I feel like playing the game. But in terms of easy modes in general, it works just fine with me. So let's get into Nintendo Direct. So I have pulled up The full mega thread that I saw on Reddit that shows me exactly what got announced. I didn't actually watch the direct itself. I watched like a little bits and highlights. Like I've seen some of the trailers and things like that. But like I said, I'm not a Switch guy, so I wasn't actively looking at it. But there was a lot of cool stuff in there, so I felt like I wanted to talk about it. And it's a great way to cap off the show and get a lot of content in here. So right off the bat, and I don't know if this is in order. I'm just seeing what's on the mega thread here. So the first one at the top here is that Overwatch is now on Switch. I got to tell you, when I first saw that, my immediate thought was, wait, it's not? I could have sworn Overwatch was. I just assumed it would be. I figured that's the kind of game that would have made sense to be on Switch. Now that it is, yeah, that's going to be a great fit for people playing like Overwatch on handheld. That's going to be a really fun thing for people. It's a fantastic game. I wish I could still get into it. I got into it late, which was my problem as well, but I enjoyed it for the time that I played it. I really did enjoy myself. But it's one of those games that like you either stick with it or you're going to get lost real quick. And it's a bit of a shame, but I still had a blast for the time that I played it. By the way, my main would have been Zenyatta. That was my big main. It's just for people curious about it. This was the weird one. Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury or King of Fighters, depending on which way you want to go about it. He is going to Super Smash Brothers. And I got kind of annoyed when people were like, who the fuck's this? It's like, motherfucker. Like, research. Not to mention, like, you don't know every single character that's in Super Smash Brothers, so fucking relax. The best part was when I saw literal articles being wrote by, like, major websites being like, so who the fuck is this guy? It's like, you're a journalist and you don't even... And you're talking about one of the biggest quote-unquote fighting games in the industry, and you don't even... So you're acting like you know fighting games. And you're talking like you don't know King of Fighters, like you don't know Fatal Fury. What? Some journalists you might be. But the idea that a lot of people were just flacking on, it's like, man, you can't... It was like what I was talking about last week when people get mad at MLB The Show when the certain card isn't what they want. It's like, man, like, it's just more content. What are you mad about? Like, at least see how the guy plays. Doesn't he look fucking cool? Like, every time I look at Terry, I think he looks fucking badass. It's like, what are you mad about? Like, it's another character. Like, there are fucking, 100 other characters in the game? Like, if you don't like that one, don't fucking buy them. And just play one of the other, 80 to 90 other things that are out there. Like, what's your fucking deal, man? Like, it's this whole idea of people have to get mad at everything if they don't get the one character they want. Like, they're thinking, oh, man, why the fuck are they still, not putting Waluigi in? It's like, it's fucking Nintendo. They can do what they want. Like, it's so amazing that I watch Nintendo fans shill out as hard as they do for the company, but then... Just because Waluigi doesn't get in Smash for another round, they flip their shit and then go right back to being the Nintendo shill that they still are. It's such a weird dichotomy. I don't support anybody's side specifically. It's like what I said in the console war thing I talked about before too. I don't understand this whole idea of playing teams, and then you'll watch people play teams and still shit on their own team when they don't do the thing they want. It's like it really has become a culture of not even, why don't you like the thing that they like? It's like, why don't you like things the exact way that I want them? Or in this case, why don't you do everything the way that I want you to do? And it's like, holy fuck, man. Like, there's a million other games out in the world. There's a million other options for you, and you just can't fucking not bitch about the one. Holy crap. But yeah, he's going to be part of a challenger pack. As I'm looking here... that stuff's not important. It's more just the character in the game. I'm not going to get too in-depth with this. I don't want to spend, time talking about the price points of stuff that I'm not going to play. So, they also mentioned Banjo-Kazooie, which was also announced a while ago, and that he, I believe, was going to be... that he was put in that day. Yeah, it was. It was that day. And that's a great one. I mean, you go back with some of the old school stuff that we grew up with on the N64, like Banjo-Kazooie's a big one. So, I thought that was really cool. Let's see here. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So I'm assuming it's the original game that was started on the Wii, getting launched in HD, or at least a remastered version of it. If not, just, I'm trying to read here. Did it actually say it got remastered? It doesn't specifically say remastered. It looks like maybe just added some more stuff onto it. But that's going to launch next year. I never had the chance to play Xenoblade Chronicles. I heard a lot of good things about it. I just never got around to it when I was still playing on the Wii and Wii U. Just because, again, like I got in that trend of like I just got burnt out on Nintendo because I was so mad that I got these consoles and almost nothing ever comes out for them. So I moved to Xbox 360 and eventually PS4, where I've stayed for a while now. So the cool thing that a lot of my friends have been talking about was the Super NES games that were added to Nintendo Switch Online. So the following were added, and almost all of these are cool and slash games I know about. Super Mario World, naturally. Super Mario Kart, again, naturally. Zelda Link to the Past, of course. Super Metroid, absolutely. Stunt Race FX, never heard of it before. It says in brackets available for the first time since its original Super NES release, so it must be something that was kind of kind of just suppressed and never really gained traction, so they just kind of threw it up there. Kirby's Dream Land 3, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Star Fox, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, Kirby's Dream Course, Brawl Brothers, Breath of Fire, fucking fantastic series of JRPGs, Demon's Crest, Joe and Mac 2, Lost in the Tropics, Super EDF Earth Defense Force. Oh shit, I didn't know the Earth Defense Force was on the Super Nintendo. I just assumed it started out being those weird 3D ant killer games. I wonder if that is the same thing. I would imagine it has to be, wouldn't it? Huh. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Either way. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Puyo Puyo 2, Super Soccer and Super Tennis, both saying available for the first time since its original release. So they probably put a couple of like games that were either Japan or just kind of like not really thrown out there very much. And that's kind of cool. They also said that they were going to offer a Super NES controller that could work with the Switch. That is a very smart idea. If they're going to re-release those old controllers, that is a fantastic idea. And all they really have to do is they probably are just using the same controllers that they're using with the Super NES Classic. That makes perfect sense. So why the hell wouldn't they do that? How much are they selling them for? Because that's the one I'm curious about. $30 each. I'm assuming that's US, so that's what, $40 here. Well, that's a bit of a tough one because I mean, it's not the most difficult controller, so that's a little iffy. But it is what it is, I guess. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, hashtag, I don't know what they actually call it, if it's hashtag FE Encore. I tried to play that game on Wii U, and that was a case of a game that it didn't grab me in terms of story. It wasn't the difficulty, it certainly wasn't the way that the game was played, because I enjoyed the battle system in that game, but the story was fucking boring, and so were all the characters. I didn't get attached to anybody. I tried my ass off. Like, I tried. I really did. And then there was one dungeon specifically where like the element that was used by a lot of the monsters was just assholishly against everything that you did. And it's just like, fuck, what do I do? And that was it. By that point, I was already kind of getting sick of the story and I never finished it. So hopefully, I mean, if you enjoy that kind of stuff, take a look at it. But man, like that game frustrated me. Also, that game got censored by Nintendo. There goes another censorship story that people don't remember with Nintendo. They took out all the fun content. And by fun content, I mean all the funky outfits. They just kind of went, oh, we can't show all these girls off, yet they still have big boobs and still show a little bit of butt here and there on stuff. But, it's that double-edged sword. Tetris 99 getting a DLC update. What is that going to add? So it must be, it looks like some like harder thing that you have to actually achieve a certain status. Oh, so it's getting first place at least once in the online mode. Let's see. So it seems like it's more like a showing off stuff, like you're getting custom themes and things like that. They do add a big blog DLC, so they are getting, I guess, some different shapes as well. It's Tetris. I don't know what else you can really do to make it that amazing. Like, I remember when I first heard the idea, I'm like, that's actually probably the one thing they could have done to make Tetris really interesting. After that, I don't know how much else you can really change it, but that's cool for them. They showed some stuff on Pokemon Sword and Shield. So they showed a couple of new Pokemon. That part really doesn't matter to me. Because, at this point, the way that I look at Pokemon now, it's like, it's gone on so long that you're looking at pretty much the same ideas and they're just changing it over and over. So it's not really doing too much. It's the game itself that I'd be more concerned with. So apparently in this game, you can actually customize your outfit. That's cool. I like that idea. Instead of just being the same default character over and over again. There's a camp that you can do so you can, play with your Pokemon and get to know them better. There's a wild area where you can go visit other players' camps as well. So it's probably like a lot like what Animal Crossing does with their houses. And you can cook curry rice. Well, that's a win right there. You need to go play Pokemon Sword just to cook curry. That's how this works, right? Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. I think it was probably just a trailer on that front, showing some amiibo things and things like that. The place that I work for has actually been doing some wraparounds for, I'm assuming, Walmart bins. So like what we do is we make a bunch of stuff, but specifically in this case, we make, like, when you go to like a Walmart or something and you see that cage on the ground that's got like a big pile of stuff in it, and sometimes there's like this cardboard wraparound. That's what we've been shipping out recently, and they're fucking pretty as shit. I wish I could take one of them, but we basically just make them for the order, so there's not really leftover. But it's cool looking, and I'm so excited just to watch all my friends have fun with that. I mean, I probably am not going to get around to playing that because, again, I don't own a Switch, and it probably won't happen anytime soon. And if I was going to get a Switch, Link's Awakening is probably not where I'd be going to first. But I still think it's fantastic that an old school game like that is getting such a gorgeous remake. So that's really super cool. Luigi Mansion 3, that is... it is what it is. I never actually played the originals. At least the original on GameCube. I never owned a GameCube, so it was difficult, but even then, like, you could have gotten games like that on the Wii, and I just never got around to it. It was one of those games that I just didn't feel the interest in. I mean, I'm happy that a lot of people still loved it and were biting for another one, and that's really cool. Apparently, they have this multiplayer mode where 2 to 8 players can play. It reminds me of the Nintendo Land minigame that you could play, where the person with the tablet was the ghost and couldn't be seen unless one of the 4 players had flashlights if they pointed in that direction. So that was that. The other thing too, Nintendo Land is a very underrated multiplayer game or underrated party game, I should say, for the Wii U. That was one of the very few games that I actually enjoyed playing with all the time with my friends. Especially that game was one of them. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Doesn't really say too much other than that it's going to be launching on March the 20th. Good lord, I'm surprised it took that long for an Animal Crossing game to come out on the Switch, because you'd figure it was just, a game that should have launched with it, because that's the kind of game that you would be taking with you on the road. So I was surprised to see that it's taken this long for that, but, Nintendo has always been known to focus on a couple of things, and everything else just kind of takes a little bit longer to get to. Daemon X Machina, that game is coming out in a few more days. September 13th is the day. I really want to play it. That's one of the few ones that I really want to play with, because it reminds me so much of Zone of the Enders, and my god, did I love that game back on the PS2. So, man. Now all of a sudden I want to Switch again. Now I'm just sitting here back being like, fuck, now I gotta play this. Astral Chain's got my attention. I still need to play Fire Emblem Three Houses, and of course there's still Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and all that other shit. But, fuck. That's frustrating. That's the part about only being able to afford really one console that just kind of sucks, Let's see. Super Kirby Clash, I don't really care, honestly. Kirby has just never been my deal. Sorry, guys. It's one of those things. Divinity Original Sin 2 is getting put on there. I'm still waiting for that to get lowered enough on the PlayStation Store that I can take a shot at that. Because, again, I can't justify spending $80 on a lot of games anymore. It's pretty hard. Like, Cyberpunk is going to be one of the very few this year that I do. Or next year, I should say. Because it's one of those games that I know, like, this is the game I'm waiting for this year. But, that's a game that I'm not even convinced that I'm actually going to like. But it's a game that I've heard so many good things about, and no one's ever told me a bad thing about it, that I feel like I have to try it, because I've never tried any of those games before. Return of the Obra Dinn. I've seen a lot about this stylish, like, almost like pencil or like ink sort of looking game. I'm not thinking Bendy and the Ink Machine here. I know what I'm talking about here with Obra Dinn, but that's another game that I'm curious about. But it's another one of those things. It's an indie game, and it's got to be cheap for me to take a look at. I just can't. I can't justify $20-$30 on games that, seem like they're just narrative games, especially like Gone Home I got for free. Firewatch is the one game that I actually bought at full price, and I regret that, because I didn't hate the game, but the amount of time that I got with it really didn't make me feel like I got my money's worth. Life is Strange I got very cheap when that all finished. So a lot of those things, like, I got to be careful with. because I don't want to get too ahead of myself and end up spending more money than I want to. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'd rather spend it on a really big AAA game that's going to give me a lot of time and will be like, say, half price from what it normally is. That's how I look at it. But cool that a game like that's getting on the Switch. I've heard so many good things about it too, and if it does end up being at a decent price on PlayStation 4, I'm totally down for playing that. There's a couple of games here that I didn't actually see the trailers on, so I can't comment on. Those two specifically being Little Town Hero and Rogue Company. Apparently Little Town Hero is from Game Freak, so that's curious. Also features music by Toby Fox, so that might be an interesting thing, but I didn't see anything of it. And then Rogue Company. Oh wait, is Rogue Company that one that looked like a Rage game taking from Overwatch? If that's the one that it is, then I know what that one is, but otherwise, I don't know much else about that one. Deadly Premonition is getting a second game. I tried playing the original. I can see why it's a cult classic because I hate that game. So I'm sure there's a very core few people that just fucking love that game, and that was one of those ones that I just couldn't get behind. I couldn't make heads or tails of what the fuck was going on in that game. But that's still cool. Anytime that a cult classic gets revived, whether I like it or not, I'm happy because you know that the people that are big fans of that series are fucking so happy right now, and that makes me happy too because that kind of shit's cool, man. Like, to be able to see that kind of joy from people, like, why would you not want that? And then speaking of fans being really happy about stuff, Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is going to be on on Switch. That's a pretty out there announcement. Doom 64 coming to Switch. That's pretty cool. I don't even remember what Doom 64 was. I really don't remember what the hell that was because I don't think I ever played it. Shit. Whatever. That's how bad my memory is. Like I'm sitting there being like, do I remember even Doom 64 being a thing? And it must have. Shit. It's one of those things that you just it just shows me how old I'm getting because I'm fucking forgetting everything already. Witcher 3, did they show anything else? I guess just announcing on when it's coming. It's coming October 15th. Cool. Assassin's Creed Rebel Collection, so Black Flag and Rogue, which I never played Rogue, but Black Flag is fantastic. So if you're going to play Black Flag on Switch, that's a pretty cool game to play on there. Trials of Mana, haven't played a Mana game in a long time, and the last few ones that have been out I have heard and haven't been very good, so I hope they solve it there. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. I just want to play that game for the 2D graphics, because that looked fucking cool when I saw that trailer. That's all I want. That's all I care about. Some new amiibos, Incineroar, Chrom, and Simon Belmont. Well, I would almost want a Chrome one, but not unless he's in that swimsuit, because he got a nice butt. NBA 2K20, who gives a shit. Outer Worlds. I'm actually surprised that one's going to work on Switch, but then again, they somehow managed to get Witcher 3 to work, so I guess they can figure something out. Just Dance 2020, who gives a shit. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch Remastered. That game will probably look amazing on a handheld. That's same with like what Breath of the Wild looks like on there. I can't imagine Ni no Kuni not looking fucking phenomenal on a Switch. Devil May Cry 2, that's weird. I wonder, I'm assuming the first one must already be out, wouldn't it? That'd be kind of strange if only if this is the first Devil May Cry game put on there. That would be quite weird. And then otherwise, Grid Autosport, racing game, vroom vroom, whatever. Vampire, I wanted to play that, and I just haven't gotten around to looking into it. So who knows? But from what I heard, like, it's a mixed bag. I've heard people that say it's fucking fantastic, and I've heard games that be like, it's fucking shit. So it is what it is. Call of Cthulhu, I'm sure my buddy Nathan is going apeshit because he is the biggest H.P. Lovecraft fan I've ever known. And Farming Simulator 2020, I guess it is 2020. Farming Simulator 20, though. That is a system seller right there. Don't look any further. That is the shit you want to go for. No, I'm just kidding. I've tried. Which Farming Simulator game did I actually play once? I think I played it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Why is this a thing that's working on with people? But either way. If there was other stuff on the list, it's not here, so if there was stuff I missed, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, a lot of cool stuff still to be talked about there. And it goes back to, like, what I've said before, that I'm so frustrated that I don't have the ability to get a Switch. And, man, it sucks. I really want to play so many of these games, and they just keep adding more stuff. It's like twisting the knife on me, just being like, oh, stop it. You're already hurting me. It's like that scene in Simpsons where Ralph's just being like, stop, he's already dead. That's me every time the Switch brings up one more game that I really want. I'm like, fuck. But I can't justify just abandoning the PS4. So monetarily, I should say, I could easily abandon a PS4 and play Switch games for a while if I wanted to, but I can't afford to do it. Because every time, like a buddy of mine was he upgraded to the new one, and he offered to sell it to me, his old one, for $270, because that was what the trade-in value was going to be. And I really thought about it, and I said no, and the reason being, well, other than the fact that, I have to be careful about what I'm spending, and that I had a bunch of games I'm already trying to finish, so there's no point in buying this and suddenly interrupting all these games that are on my list that I want to finish too. But the biggest part of me, and it still is to this day, that I'm not paying just $270 for the system. I'm paying $270 plus at least $80 for any of the basically the 3 games that I want to play right now. That being Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Fire Emblem Three Houses. If I'm lucky, I might get $10 or $15 at most knocked off on it. So either way, I'm still spending over $300 right from the very get-go just to play one game. And in my head at this point in time, when I already have another console and a shit ton of games to play, am I really going to spend $300 for one game? And the answer right now is no. I can't justify that. Who knows, in a year, maybe I can, but by then I got to start thinking about the PS5, and that's when that conversation comes into play. So it becomes difficult. But every time that I see what's going on with the Switch, I'm very happy for Nintendo fans because they are actually getting a lot of good stuff. My worry when the Switch came out initially, and I don't remember when I said it or where I said it. I know on this channel I did at some point. But I did mention that my one worry with the Switch is everywhere that I've had with Nintendo for the last couple of consoles, Nintendo consoles have the same issue usually, that they release a couple of really good games, and then for 6 months you see nothing. And from what I'm seeing, they're at least releasing enough good ports, they're releasing enough indie titles, and they are releasing a number of a number of AAA titles that actually can keep the edge off on people so they're not sitting, waiting for new stuff. So that's fantastic, and that always makes me happy to know that other people are going to be happy too. So, we're going to end on happiness, because we started last week with absolute anger, and we started this podcast with a little bit of depression, and we're going to end happy. Thanks for watching, guys. So, as always, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel for more content, put comments below on stuff that you want to talk about, whether it's the Cyberpunk multiplayer stuff, easy mode stuff like we were talking about with Sekiro and Death Stranding, stuff that went on with the Nintendo Direct, not to mention things that either I forgot or things that I got wrong. I'm not a professional, I'm not going to lie here. I'm doing this for funsies, so, if I make a mistake here and there, like last week with the date being a complete month off, it is what it is. I'm still trying to figure myself out here, and not to mention I'm literally just doing this as a hobby, so, I'm not going to sit here acting like I deserve like Patreon money or anything like that, because I'm not really putting the most transformative content on here right now. That's what the VCR podcast is for, when we just talk like a bunch of fucking morons like we're at the bar. That's a different story, which I'm probably going to be recording tomorrow for another show, so we'll see how that goes. But either way, thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you on the next podcast.